All right, spreading 4 bags on the swampy wet field. I just sprayed this probably no more than 2 hours ago. Now some of this is, smashed down from me driving right along the edge here, but you can see clearly it's I sprayed it with a mix of a little bit of glyphosate because there is some grass in here, but not much grass. And then I threw in 2,4-D and a little bit of triclopyr. Triclopyr is mainly for woody brush, but I've tried it in a couple little areas, and it works it's even stronger than 2,4-D for broadleafs. I mean, it's no surprise because it's over $100 a jug, but the 2,4-D I know has a residual, so does triclopyr, so hopefully that doesn't affect when we try and plant corn into here. The reason why the weeds are as big as what they are, this is the driest portion of this plot. Right out in there's a little bit of standing water. I was able to get through with the 4-wheeler and spray it all. In the past couple years, we've, well, 3 or 4 years ago, we would just disc this up. But the last 2 years, we've plowed it up because it's been drier springs. Plowed it all and disked it all and have had really good corn crops in here. Probably last year, this was my best looking corn out of all my plots. Because it was, obviously a drier year last year. This is probably our wettest field. This year we're going to try, obviously with that standing water and it being already June, I don't want to wait till like mid-June to plant the corn. It looks like we're going to get finally a dry week here. So this should dry it out enough to maybe disc it up. If not, in some of those wetter areas, I'll just leave that for brassicas. And this corner right here is the wettest area, right over there. This whole edge is good. The middle is kind of wet, but that far side over there, all the way along the brush, is pretty good until you get down into here. It's the wettest stuff's just like right here. Well, I'm gonna get spreading here, and maybe we can get this planted this weekend at the earliest. It's Wednesday night right now. Well, here's the first pass. This is NutriCrave right here. I came through here with the disc. I wasn't sure how well it was gonna work. I'm standing in pretty much the wettest part of the field right here. I was able to get through here just barely. We're getting some more rain tomorrow. You can see all these weeds are starting to die. I was thinking about just doing a straight no-till, just try to drill the corn into this, but this is pretty packed down, and I feel like I wouldn't have got the row wouldn't have got closed. It would have been like a slice on the ground. I would have had to maybe bring the cultipacker out here and maybe drive over it a bunch. Probably end up rutting it up anyways. I was just happy I was able to get through here with the disc. Just one pass to help loosen up this ground to get this seed totally in the ground. I don't see anything sticking up. So the seed's in there. All these weeds should hopefully die out. I'm sure I'm gonna have some of this stuff survive. This being NutriCrave right here is gonna be a real challenge. I probably won't be able to get the cultivator in here. This is pretty rough ground. Maybe I'll set it up so I can maybe squeeze through once, at least on the NutriCrave. On the field corn, I might not worry about getting the spacing correct on the planter to run the cultivator through. I'm gonna have probably 4 rows of NutriCrave and 4 rows of field corn side by side, 100-day field corn. So this is a 100-day NutriCrave. I know it's early June, so the NutriCrave probably ain't gonna dry down correctly, and probably the field corn won't either. So this stuff might end up being a little bit moldy, just the way it is with this wet ground. This is as soon as I could get in here. And then I was looking for a faster growing variety, but I don't really want to spend $200 to $300 on a bag just to plant a little area like this. So I have some saved shelled out seeds from an 85-day corn variety that I planted last year. I saved a couple of those ears. I used up that seed last year. So I'm just gonna, that'll be over there further. I'm gonna run that through the planter extra thick. Be interesting to see how that works. That's just shelled out corn from, it's obviously not gonna grow the same because it's a hybrid, but it should hopefully be a little bit faster maturing and won't be as long as this 100-day stuff. And then I'll have basically, so that'll be 4 rows of each, 4 rows of 100-day. This will be probably 4 rows of 100-day or 4 rows of NutriCrave, whatever that, maybe probably put the field corn here, strip of brassica, 4 rows of NutriCrave, another strip of brassica, the last strip, and then this will be all corn from here to the fence line. The rows right here, I'm not really seeing any seeds, so the ground is tons of moisture in the ground, so they should start to germinate almost immediately. Right here's a seed. Be interesting to see how this turns out. This is probably the roughest look that I've ever planted this field in. So I've drilled into the rye and have good success, but this is weeds. Hopefully I get a good kill on these weeds, especially in this NutriCrave section. I am going to come through here tonight, later when I'm done planting this corn, and basically spray simazine on the whole field. I might mix in a little bit of Prowl H2O, so hopefully that pre-emergent holds back. Like, I know disking up the ground like this is going to encourage more weed growth than if I were to just try and drill into this, but once these die, the black ground would be getting full sun anyways, and the weeds would germinate right through it. So either way I was going to end up with weeds, but just disking it up today really helped. So yeah, I'm going to finish planting here. All right, so I'm back out checking up on this plot. This will be your first update. It's looking pretty good in the areas that I had the seed corn, but the shelled out 85-day corn is not coming in too good. So here's the NutriCrave. As similar to all the other NutriCrave areas, it's coming in probably faster and thicker than 100-day field corn. Like I said in the past, even with this new plate, I was able to eliminate a lot of the double where it was dropping 2 seeds at once. Some of the earlier, I see a lot of them in here. This seed is definitely a lot smaller. This is the NutriCrave. Hopefully we don't have root lodging. This is pretty wet ground. The weeds are just starting. I'll probably cultivate this whenever this dries out, if it does dry out. If it doesn't dry out, I'm not going to be able to do anything. And the NutriCrave, the pre-emergence doing a good job holding back weeds. Here is the 85-day shelled out corn. You can see this is one of the better areas. Right here is like 1.5 feet, almost 2 feet there. Nothing. Couple sporadic plants throughout this spot. You can kind of look down the rows. You can just barely see the row. They're super thin. This is going to turn into a super weed fest in here. There's going to be tons of sunlight getting in here. I'm sure these corn plants will probably have 2, if not 3 ears per stalk because it's such a low population. So I'll get something out of here, but there'll be a heck of a lot of weeds starting in here. And then here is the 100-day field corn. You can see it's probably spaced out a little bit better, but there is gaps in here. I don't know if this is from cranes or turkeys pulling them out. I didn't really get out here and wasn't able to monitor everything as was all popping up. I know in the past, like I've said, this year I didn't have too many issues with cranes and birds pulling them up, but for some reason these 3 outer rows look a little better. But you can see on this kernel must be a little bigger because I rarely see any of them that were dropped into at once. It's just singular plants. So these work with our plates a little bit better. But the NutriCrave is going to do fine as well. This is just probably planted slightly lower population than the NutriCrave. So ear size comparison won't be the greatest. Man, it's wet in here. I'm sure there was standing water in here just like a day or 2 ago. So I probably won't be able to cultivate this. I'd be surprised if I do. I mean, it'd have to dry up for probably 2 weeks to be able to get in here with that little tractor and start ripping these rows. It'd be nice to, but it's not really gonna probably be needed. The corn looks like it's getting established pretty good, but the weeds are coming on. So I should be able to drive through here and spray these the field corn sections. But the NutriCrave, here's my 4 rows of NutriCrave. So these NutriCrave plants should be getting more sunlight on each side. This would be a good test. And then I got 4 rows of the field corn. This is the strip of buckwheat. This will all be no-till brassicas later on. You can see this is a really good comparison. I didn't spray any pre-emergent where I put the buckwheat down. So this all looks like weeds, but there's a lot of buckwheat coming up and a lot of weeds. This is all water hemp right here. All Roundup resistant water hemp, most of it. And there's no pre-emergent here. I didn't know if the buckwheat was gonna come up. Probably, maybe it would have, maybe it wouldn't have if I would have sprayed Simazine or Prowl here. And then here's where the pre-emergent was put down. Look at the difference. You got a couple here and there, but man, maybe 5%. In certain areas, I saw some areas that were a little bit weedier than this. But this looks pretty good right here. This is the 4 rows of the field corn. Another strip of brassica. And then this is corn from here on out. I got 4 rows of NutriCrave here. And then the rest of the rows heading towards the woods is all the 100-day field corn. And originally I left a gap here because I thought I was going to have another. My plan was to do 4 rows of corn, a strip of brassica, 8 rows of corn, and then the 2 strips of brassica. But this got too narrow to get in here with the disc. So as I was planting the corn, I realized this was going to be too narrow. So I just put in 2 or 4 more rows right here. They kind of got planted on top of each other, which is fine. It got this a little higher population in here on this. This is probably more similar to the NutriCrave population, but this is all 100-day field corn. And that's why this area wasn't tilled up. You can see this is all the giant ragweed, all the tall green weeds that I sprayed a couple days prior to planting. And this is the one area that I just drilled right into the weeds. I could have probably just drilled the whole plot no-till, this being such soft ground. I got really good seed to soil contact, got the seed trench closed up, but since it was just barely dry enough to get the disc through, I figured it'd be best just to disc it up, because then if it did dry up enough, I would be able to cultivate. But it's been so wet, like I said, I probably won't be able to cultivate this anyways. Whereas this no-till, there's a lot of thatch on top, all this weed thatch. It'd be hard to get through with the cultivator to do even a halfway decent job. But I think it's going to turn out even if I can't. So I must have picked up the planter right there. I should have probably just planted another row. And it looks like this was that tight section. It was kind of getting weird right here. It was hard to get 2 rows perfect, but yeah, this is looking really, really good. So it's obviously my latest planted corn here. It'd be interesting to see how this NutriCrave being 100-day and this field corn being 100-day, if it can completely dry down. It might end up being a little bit moldy depending on how warm and how dry it is this September, if it has enough time to mature and dry down. But yeah, all in all, it's probably 3/4 of an acre of corn, probably 1/4 acre of brassica in here in these lanes. Well, we finally had a dry week. I'm able to get in here tonight and cultivate this before we get more rain middle of the night tonight. This is the NutriCrave I'm in right now. You can see the weeds are definitely filling in. The cultivating's not going to kill all these giant ragweeds, if any of these bigger ones, but it should knock back at least half of these little ones. I'll show you what it's looking like. Definitely some of this is going to survive. But like I said, it knocked back about half of those little ones. Here's that 85-day corn. Not really looking good at all. I'm going to just keep cultivating this And pretty soon I'm gonna just broadcast the brassicas real heavy in here. I know there's gonna be tons of weeds that come in too. I sprayed all the field corn in this plot, including this section. I haven't done this yet. This is still the 85-day corn. You can see there's definitely less weeds here, but there's still a bunch of little ones starting. So coming through here tonight is really gonna set back these weeds another 2 weeks or so. That's about it, honestly, how weedy and infested this field is. I sprayed all, this is all the 100-day field corn. This stuff's looking pretty good. I'm gonna hit it with the cultivator tonight, and that'll be it. I won't have to spray it or cultivate it again because it's gonna get up and start growing pretty fast here, especially if it starts to dry out. This is some ground that, you know, we could go almost a month and it wouldn't hurt the corn. If anything, it would help the corn because corn is much bigger on the edges of these fields where it kind of gets, you know, to higher ground. In the middle, you can see it's quite a bit lower, and then on that far end, so it's darker green and it's noticeably taller over there too. And everything in the middle of the fields definitely smaller too. So like I said, this is all the NutriCrave right here. Stuff's looking fantastic. Here's a spot where I ran out of buckwheat seed. I'll try and get this in the brassicas later, but I did spray this the same day I sprayed, and look at all these weeds that survived. So that's why pre-emergence and cultivating has really helped me out, especially in this field. But yeah, this is what it looks like. This is another full rows of NutriCrave. No chemical sprayed yet, just the pre-emerge I put down the day of planting. So this is pretty darn good control compared to what I've had in the past. So I can get away without having to spray Glide, but the pre-emerge is definitely important. The only reason why I sprayed these field corn sections is because it was too wet the day I sprayed, and it really was needing it. You can see these rows are much cleaner, but like I said, there still is plants in here that did survive and a bunch of little ones coming up. So it'd be great to hit all this with the cultivator today. The buckwheat, it's not looking so good. You can see all the water hemp and ragweed coming in. This buckwheat definitely does not like wet ground. This is probably the weakest stand of buckwheat I've ever planted. Usually this stuff comes up and outcompetes the weeds like crazy. Like, look at that high ground plot over there. It's only like maybe 2 feet higher in elevation, but it's almost 3 times as tall, 3 times as thick. It's unbelievably better. So this is going to be interesting how this turns out, because this stuff's not going to get much taller than knee high probably. Last year, being a super dry year, I had the brassica and the buckwheat, no-till buckwheat, on the edge here of the same field, and this stuff was the tallest buckwheat because it was a complete opposite last year. It was a dry year, obviously, and the buckwheat was like chest high. There was giant ragweed and some water hemp in there too, probably like 25% weeds, because this, like I said, this ground is pretty weedy. And the weeds were even taller than that. They were 6 feet tall. It was a real pain to try seeding the brassicas in there. And then the brassicas, these are my biggest, thickest stand of brassicas I planted last year. I had them right along the edge here. This field corn looks really good, but same thing. I'm going to come through here and cultivate it. Might as well while I'm out here. Doesn't seem like I'll get too stuck. This is definitely the wetter side of the field. Some of these rows I'm not going to do because this is that no-till section where I didn't disc, just spray. I probably could have got away doing that, but there is still just as many weeds coming up in this undisced ground compared to the disced ground, so it's whatever, I guess. Not really much of a difference. But yeah, definitely a difference in the NutriCrave ground. You can see the weeds over here because, like I said, I haven't sprayed it yet, so I'm assuming this is going to be a little bit weedier than the field corn. Obviously it's going to, because there's more weeds now and some of these won't kill. You can definitely see it's shorter. I'll show you that up here. This is a noticeable, this year being so wet, this is definitely a noticeable difference from the past. Like I said, we've been able to plow this ground usually in the spring, but this year I was barely able to get in here with the disc. You can see how much taller it is on the edges of the fields where definitely less moisture. You can see right there along our driving trail how tall it is, and then everything drops off in the middle right here. The whole middle is pretty much the same, but thankfully the corn looks as good as it does, because like I said in the last update, there's been so many fields in the general area with giant 1 to 2 acre puddles that just completely killed whatever was growing there. This ground thankfully isn't that wet, but it's definitely wetter than in the past, so I'm at least able to get a good crop. Not a good crop, but I would say it's going to turn into an okay crop of corn compared to what last year. I had an amazing crop of corn in here. Like I said, it was a dry year and stuff did really good in here. Look at how much taller this NutriCrave is here on the edge. It's like definitely past knee. It's like thigh high, almost getting close to waist high on these drier spots. And then in these wetter areas where there was occasional standing water, like in some of these ruts in between the rows, it's like shin high. So I think the wettest time is behind us. Hopefully it doesn't get too dry, because all the other corn that's getting close to tasseling and the drier ground fields and just all the local farmer fields in general, if we get a dry spell, 2 to 3 week dry spell and tassel, that's gonna hurt the corn yield for sure. This ground, this corn never, I mean, even on a super dry year like last year, this corn never once shriveled up. This corn could go a month, like I said, without rain, and it would actually help it, because I mean, this stuff has just got tons of moisture right on the surface. This black organic matter stuff, this is unbelievable. Unbelievably wet ground here. So yeah, we'll finish up cultivating. I'll have one more update probably in the video. I got to get a lot of other videos out too. So to put this into perspective, how wet this has been this year, even on a dry year, the water table must be extremely high here, because I can literally jump. I know when we plow and drive through with the tractor, if you stand right here and someone drives by, you can feel the ground move. And when I jump, you can see these plants shake. I don't know if I'll be able to catch it on camera. I don't have a tripod with me, but let's try it out. It's really like, seems like it's just a giant floating bog, but it's not obviously like a bog, because then you wouldn't be able to do anything in here. But it's just kind of weird, man. I don't know, it's really interesting area. I mean, look at how dark this stuff is. It's probably like just really high on organic matter. I mean, unbelievable. Pretty crazy. I don't know what else to say. And we never really got a tractor stuck out here at all. We came close to it a couple times, but yeah, it's pretty crazy stuff here. Okay, here's another look at the swamp field. All the way along the whole perimeter. It gets higher up towards this field, a little bit higher towards the fence line there, a little bit higher towards the ditch over there, and a little bit higher along this whole trail down here. The corn is noticeably taller along all the edges. Obviously, it's just been crazy wet this year. And last weekend, there was a ton of standing water after we got a real heavy rain. I don't know how many inches, but it had to have been at least 1.5 inches, 2 inches in like a half hour. It poured for a half hour straight. And then the weekend prior to that, we had another big storm, and it was there's been standing water in this field on and off, like it seems like every other week. And it eventually does dry up, but every time we get a rain now, the ground is just more and more saturated. Here's that one area that I no-tilled. Obviously this is the field corn, so I did spray this. I did post-emerge spray it once. This is the small section, the only section in the field where I didn't disc, where I planted the corn. And you can see all the old corn stalks from last year. I probably could have got away with doing it that way, but I was able to luckily get in here that one day and cultivate the field. Literally the next day we got, that was one of the bigger rains that we had, I was just telling you about. And the next day, there's just standing water throughout the whole plot. I'm so lucky I was able to get in here that day and cultivate this, because man, there was a whole flush of weeds bigger than this. The day this is one of the areas I was able to cultivate. I obviously didn't cultivate that no-till ground. It was just some of these areas there was a lot of residue, and it was really bunching up and getting caught up in the cultivator, so it didn't really do the greatest job, but it did a good enough job to knock back most of the weeds. Like here's probably one weed that survived, and then these are all new ones that have come up in the last probably week or two. So these rows are pretty well cleaned back up. The corn is getting close to, or closer to canopying. These weeds are still going to be probably knee-high in here or better by the end of the growing season, because I mean, there's a whole flush of weeds. I'm not worried about these weeds. The corn is well established. We got crop dominance now, so the corn's well ahead of any weeds that come up in here. A couple weeds here and there that did survive. This is like one of the areas that the cultivator was bunching up. Wow, look at all those ants. Right here is where it switches to NutriCrave. This row is NutriCrave. This row is 100-day field corn. The NutriCrave has a little bit wavier leaves, and the field corn's just kind of more of a straighter leaf. You kind of see the difference. All this corn has been really yellow like this. We haven't, because it's just, you go up this way, you can see it's even wetter. There's probably still some water in here, probably 2-3 days ago. It's pretty wet right here. You saw last time I was jumping up and down, and I was like shaking the ground like a giant bog. I mean, this is some pretty crazy wet ground. I'm just lucky it's able to dry up in a couple days, and I'm actually gonna get a crop out of here, which is pretty amazing considering how wet it's been. Here's my buckwheat. I haven't planted brassicas here. The buckwheat's doing really bad because it's just been getting flooded and flooded. You can see how much better the buckwheat looks up near that drier edge. The further you go this way, the shorter it gets, and there's just a ton of weeds filling in. Here's 4 more rows of the field corn. Look at how stretched this corn is. This stuff will probably barely get 6 feet tall, I'm guessing. It's just way behind. You can see the stuff on the edges over there is close to chest high, some of that better stuff. And obviously last year, the whole field was just beautiful because it was such a dry year, and this was my best corn anywhere last year in this really wet field. Here's the NutriCrave. Everything, like I said, going this way is just looking pretty small. You turn around and it's just really noticeably better on this half. Here's a big pile of dirt and stuff that the cultivator was getting caught up in, all these corn stalks. And you could see on the very edge of the field, it's got that nice dark green look to it because it's even drier on the last 10 yards right here. And right here, it's definitely chest high. And I was able to get through here and rip this up. I didn't have any buckwheat to seed in here. I ran out of seed. Good thing I didn't waste any buckwheat seed here. I just cultivated this the same day I did all the corn just to set back all these weeds. I'll probably try and get brassicas in this strip if it does dry up. If not, it'll just be just a deer highway, I guess. This maybe just nothing here this year, I don't know. Yeah, this is looking good. Not many weeds coming up. Well, there's a lot of them coming up, but it could have looked a lot worse. Everything could have been this big. These are a couple that survived. Here's that 85-day corn. Got tons of weeds coming in here. This was all shelled out corn that I had saved. Obviously didn't do nearly as good as I was hoping. This is kind of just a giant waste right here. I might go through here with the backpack sprayer, and if I can't get in here and cultivate again, I'll come through with the backpack sprayer, spray out all this Roundup resistant weeds with 2,4-D and maybe just seed brassica or something. Here is the last 6 rows of the 100-day field corn. And this side, like I said, is a little bit, I guess it's pretty wet right here, but same thing. You can see it looks so much better on the edge of the field. Too bad the whole field didn't look, a little better, but I'm gonna get something out of here. So this is still gonna be a heck of a food source for these deer. This corn's not gonna yield like it has in the past, but it should definitely last them a while. So yeah, this will probably be the last update. I gotta start getting some more of my food plot videos out. Next time you'll see this video, this plot will be end of the summer, so we'll be able to compare and see how this corn does. Hopefully the month of August it starts drying up, because by that point most of the corn planted at normal times, early to mid-May, will have already been pollinated, so it'll be already starting the dry down phase, where this corn, we could, like I said in the last update, we could go a month without getting rain, and it would actually be better than getting rain because it's just saturated. And the last time we got a rain was about 4 days ago, and looks like the water just finally dried up in some of these low spots. Anyways, I'll see you in the next update of this plot later this summer. So